This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin hour number 3, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross here, downtown Las Vegas, Nevada. He's our closer, Jensen Lewis, back home in Cleveland, Ohio. And Jensen, yesterday, rumor has it that the great Lou Finocchiaro was here.
Rumor. We have evidence.
Circa. We've got evidence that Lou was here in town. Of course, does a great job breaking down the UFC for us here on VSiN. Give him a follow as I do at GamBlue on X, and the host of the Bout Business podcast. Lou, I think you blew up the internet. We got to begin the program today with this great picture of you here at Stadium Swim. Tell the people about your day here in Las Vegas.
Well, first of all, guys, thanks so much for having me on. I just jammed up for the day. One of my NFL clients actually purchased the cabana to meet with Mitch and Paul after their show. And for 2 months, I told them there was no way I could come. I had all kinds of stuff going on. And then on Tuesday, my Thursday was wide open. I called them and said, I'm coming. And so I met my friend Chris, Las Vegas Chris, who's one of the, he's a prince. Had some lunch, went to Stadium Swim, my first time at outside at Stadium Swim in a cabana. It was wonderful. Human's friend, Sydney, came over to say hello and take a picture with me. I'd like to tell you that it was all my magnetism, but we know that would be a misgiving.
Come on, Lou. Everybody wants to hang with you, buddy. Speaking of hanging, I've hit Dave already with a couple of his plays for this card in Kansas City coming up tomorrow night. I'll start with the main event because I think Dave feels like the dog is the side here. Handicap this one for us, your breakdown of the main event.
Fascinating fight. On the Prates side, you got a guy coming in from Fighting Nerds, a team that is just white hot. I don't know if they've lost since they've been in the UFC outside of Kai Barallo, who's kind of the figurehead of the team. Prates is long, lean, mean, and profusely powerful. However, this is a substantial step up for him. He's fought guys that are statues before, and now he's going to get the Matrix. And this fight, similar to 2 weeks ago's main event, I think the difference here is feet. And if Prates touches him, he's gone, okay? We know that. He's got a left hand that's got lightning. That said, he hasn't been out of the third round in some time. He steps up in class against a younger man with what I believe to be much better footwork. Can he catch Gary? And consequently, will Gary, and how much will Gary? I don't think he's thinking about it. I believe he's going to wrestle Prates up and put him on his back, make him blow some energy. I really think that this is a bargain price on Gary. I don't think it's going to go much higher. Earlier in the week, he was minus 110, minus 115 when sometimes you just got to go when the price is right. So we own him at minus 110 or 115. And I don't put it out of the question that the chain smoking Prates, after having to be wrestled and get up and play defense for 3.5 rounds, could get choked out in this fight. I like Gary a good deal here.
You see the total sitting at 3.5. Would you look then possibly for that cardio? Because that's the only thing that concerns me about Prates, because he just doesn't go deep into fights. He gets guys out of there in the first and second round. So we haven't seen that cardio really tested here. Gary, I think, is going to be on his bicycle early, try to extend him. And then if he does that, would you look to Gary? Could that under be in play at 3.5 if you think he can get the finish?
Early in the week on Monday on the Sneak Teep podcast, that total was 2.5, and I shouted from the rooftop at minus 180, take it, because it's going to 3.5. Mm-hmm. I don't care if the total's 4.5. That would cause me concern, because I think it's late fourth or fifth that Gary can get to Prates. If you're a Prates guy, you're taking him by KO or by finish, and on the earlier side. And if you're a Gary side, I'm taking him straight because I don't think the submission's out of the question. As our next fighter in the co-main event once said, there's levels to this. I don't believe Prates is on the Gary level. I believe the tsunami wave of recency that are betting protests does believe that.
You mentioned the Lionheart because this is it. The Lionheart's going to retire after this one against Mingyang Zhang here. And as I talked with Jensen about this in hour number one, you know, Anthony Smith asked Dana White, why are you giving me this kid? And they said, because we want to see how good he is. Knowing we know how good you are, and we want to see how good Mingyang Zhang is. He's almost a $5 betting favorite, Lou. I know we don't like to give those type of things out. How do you handicap this in the swan song for a great fighter in Anthony Lionheart Smith?
Smith's from Omaha, so he's in the area. He's going to have a tremendous amount of people there. It's his swan song fight. He's laid a couple of eggs going into this one. Now they give him a guy that's green as a cucumber, has barely UFC experience, has been subbed in his career. And they did this to Smith before with Petrino, and he subbed him early. I think this is a tremendous opportunity on Anthony Smith. If you want to take it safe, maybe play your over. Does Mingyang maybe have the chance to touch Smith? I think so, but I think this is Smith with his head on Mingyang's chest all afternoon. And Smith submission 10-1. I'm all about it. Smith straight up. I like it. I think Smith is on it. He is not going to want to lay an egg in front of his family in the Midwest on his swan song. And they're giving him a kid that doesn't have near the experience he does.
Lou, I love a little home cooking. And so in the featherweight fight, too, we get David Onama, who's going to be in there. And I know Dave and I talked earlier in the show that I'm always a method of victory person. I love to look to that prop market. Dave likes him to knock him out at 4-1 and to be in that method of victory. How do you side with where this fight lines up for you?
I think Dave has it cornered pretty good as far as the Onama side. Power, aggression coming right at him. The difference in this fight to me will be speed and quickness on the Chikadze side against the pursuing power of Onama. Onama from Omaha, from Kansas City, has lived recently in Omaha, trained in Denver, Midwest kid. He's going to give us his best showing. He's been in with good competition. It's just going to, again, feet. Can he catch Chikadze eventually? And I think that the total in this fight would probably be telling. Is that a 2.5? Excuse me, I spent too much time at Stadium Swim.
It's 2.5, Lou. You nailed it. It's 2.5 here for the Onama fight. So, right, that the Chikadze method of victory feels like decision, right? He keeps him at bay with the kicks. So if you want to look to the dog side, maybe play that a little bit higher via decision. In Onama, that's why I'm on him at the nice, juicy plus number for KO, because I don't know if he can win a decision against Giga.
Onama has stout wrestling, and I would not be surprised to see him use that to take some of the starch out of Chikadze early. I favor Onama here. And again, you're a knockout guy. That's pretty specific. I tend to be a little safer. I would be an inside the distance guy and take that plus price from maybe plus 400 to maybe 180 or 200. But we're talking the same thing.
Absolutely. And again, you got to search for those here in Las Vegas, Lou, as you know, because not all those books offer those inside the decision props. Drives me nuts. Abus Magomedov's going to be back in there. Small dog against Michel Pereira. We know what a wild man we could get with Pereira in there. He's a $1.42 favorite against Abus, who's been up there against some really good competition here. How do you think this goes in a pivotal middleweight matchup?
I can't wait to watch this fight. Two guys that have struggled with cardio before, but what we just saw out of Pereira was him get into the fifth with Fluffy, and I think that does him well. The fact that we saw him compete that late, he's coming off a loss, wants to correct that. The other thing about Pereira is it's when you look at him, it's amazing how he makes 185. And the funny thing is he used to fight at 170 for crying out loud. So at 85, he's found some kind of resurgence. I think there's maybe a little tarnish on him because he's coming off that loss to Fluffy. Abus also can gas. Even though Abus has some reach, I don't know if his striking can really compete with Pereira. It'll be interesting to see if this fight goes to the ground. I lean to Pereira here against Abus, but in a fight that I think will be fascinating, but I don't know how it goes 3 rounds.
All right, Lou, as always, a tradition unlike any other for you and me on a Friday in a college baseball season. I will be on a bird to Gainesville to watch the Arkansas-Florida game. I'll do the game on SEC Network tomorrow. I've been taking a look at the futures board to make the College World Series, as you have advocated for a lot of teams. Anybody standing out for you, maybe a longer shot to get to Omaha?
I would look at Grand Canyon. I'd look at University of Arizona. Of course, Dallas Baptist. That's no newsflash. I'd look where Coastal Carolina is. These are teams that have shown postseason prowess and capability. I'd look at Southern Miss, another team that's always in regionals and supers, has a great following down there. So I'm trying to keep it south of Mason-Dixon and maybe some teams that are and your Vanderbilt team. If they could hit a beach ball with a hockey stick, they'd be dangerous because they can sure pitch and play defense.
Lou, how did you didn't get burned there at Circus Swim? You look great. Did you have some a nice hat on, or did you put a little something up there?
I have my Las Vegas Country Club hat on. I wanted to make sure I got all kinds of compliments on that. My wife used to be a country club manager, so I got to play that one time. And at this age, I protect this beautiful olive skin, Dave.
Yes, you do, my friend. Very quickly, tell the people what they get when they check out the Bout Business podcast each and every week.
Each week, there's a UFC card. The Bout Business podcast breaks somewhere around 11 a.m. or noon Pacific, and the final releases that I have for each card are there. You can get it at gamblu.com. You guys have a great morning show to kick us off with the gambling each day. Keep up the great work, and thanks so much for having me with you.
Simply the best. Lou Finocchiaro, give him a follow at Gamblu. Check out the Bout Business podcast. The sneak peek comes out on Monday. The man has got the market cornered. When we come back, more NFL draft talk. That's next here. VSiN By The Books.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books. Always enjoy our conversations with Lou Finocchiaro, and we always enjoy them with Jonathan Davis. He's going to come up next here on the program in the next segment, talk all things NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. I do love when, your friends aren't your friends, Jensen, unless they get on you, certainly about the draft in particular. So I'm getting you can imagine what my phone looked like last night at 12, right? Yes. So my boy Chris Cyber down there in 40 says, Mel Kiper didn't like your pick at 12. And so you know what I just responded with? Who the hell is Mel Kiper anyway? Like, that's now the thing from way back in the day. And I really think that's when the draft became appointment television. If you go back to that famous clip with the Colts and, they don't draft a quarterback. So you have that big thing on national TV. The late, great Chris Mortensen's doing the interview. They go back to Boomer on the set, Chris Berman, and Mel looks like he's all flustered. Like, the drama of the draft, I think, kind of was born out of that stuff here in the 90s. Now you fast forward almost 30 years later, and it feels like it's still Mel Kiper up there, and all the talk was about Shedeur Sanders and whether or not teams now, generational talent, how can these teams pass on him? What are the Steelers doing at 21? I mean, again, I wasn't watching on another network, so I didn't get the feel of it, but I saw Twitter. And Jensen, it feels like people are just like, man, could you give it a rest on Shedeur? Did every team in the first round really get it wrong?
No. And I think that's, again, we talk about silly season in the draft and the lead up is that there are teams and there are narratives where you just get enamored, right? And then when the dust settles and you look back, you're like, no, he's not that good. He's not that good. And I have my reservations again about Travis Hunter and what he's going to be, depending on if Jacksonville does let him play both sides, or if you're like, okay, the war of attrition at the NFL is way different than at college football. So I think that being said, this was the proverbial sweet spot that you heard almost unanimously from any GM that talked was like, okay, we want so many people wanted to trade back. So many people wanted to get into this part because they felt that from a value standpoint was the best part. There's really not as many slam dunks as maybe we anticipate for next year that ended up being not there this year. So I think that's probably the one thing that you focus on too, is for quarterback need teams. The Giants are out. They got theirs in Jackson Dart. Okay. Now it's the Browns. Now it's the Saints. Those are the two teams remaining that if they feel their quarterback is in this draft, likely go ahead and take them today.
Who's going to take Shedeur? 6-1 would be the Saints. The Raiders at plus 350. We mentioned the Browns here, minus 350. The overwhelming favor to get him here early in day 2 of the draft here on a Friday. Steelers, Jets, and Rams, all longer shots there at 12-1. To wrap up that was Bill Tobin. He was the GM back in the day. 1994 is when that famous quote happened, and he said, quote, well, we got a guy up there. Who in the hell is Mel Kiper anyway? I mean, he's a guy that criticizes everybody, whoever they take. That was 31 years ago. And then you fast forward. Kudos to Mel Kiper. You're still doing it here 30-plus years later. But I love it. I think it's good. It's just that sometimes you don't know what these teams are thinking in their draft boards, and maybe they go oppo of Mel's, and they just seem like they could not believe that Shedeur did not go anywhere in that first round. Jalen Milroe. Now, to be the favorite there, it's still the Browns. But look at this number. It's plus $2. Remember, it's minus 350 for the Browns to take Shedeur. To take Jalen Milroe, it's 2-1. Steelers, 3-1. Saints, plus 350. Raiders at plus 550. Jets at plus 650. And the Rams at 9-1. What you're seeing, though, Jensen, it's the same teams. As you mentioned, it's the same teams with quarterback need at this point. Like, it doesn't feel like teams that don't have a need would then just strengthen that room. It feels like teams that need quarterbacks, outside starters, and or solid number 2, say with the Jets, if you're going to go to Justin Fields, it doesn't feel like teams might be reaching, at least the odds boards are saying, for a guy like Jalen Milroe.
So for Milroe, I still feel that the Steelers are going to be involved in this conversation. I know the Browns in between Shedeur and Milroe are going to be, one of the highlights of it. But man, if I'm just looking purely at the numbers and kind of seeing where it makes sense, it wouldn't shock me on Jalen Milroe if the Steelers end up being that destination. Just kind of knowing where the division is. Obviously, we watch Lamar year in and year out do what he does in Baltimore. That defense is elite, and the weapons there in Pittsburgh, plenty ready to go for a young quarterback who can really do a lot. And how many different GMs or evaluators have we heard say, they feel like he's as fast, if not faster, than Lamar. I mean, that's heady praise, for a guy that at this point is going to be a day 2 pick. So anxious to kind of see where it goes. But if it were me, I would still hold the Steelers perhaps at 3-1 to be the most attractive odds to go get Jalen Milroe.
And I think that people out there that are going, wait a minute, we just had Justin Fields and we moved on from him and he's now in New York. I think you mentioned what the difference is. It's that speed. Like Justin Fields can move, but he's a bigger guy. Like Fields is just a bigger athlete than Jalen Milroe is, right? So like that's the difference if you think it's the same guy, maybe a couple years younger. Milroe's got real speed at the quarterback position when we're making comparisons to Lamar Jackson. So that's where the difference would be if the Steelers did look back at a Milroe, that you're not getting, a Fields light here.
No, yeah. And again, just thinking about the dynamic of how that offense runs, like if we're just looking at both quarterbacks, okay, there's still a good amount of steam about Shedeur potentially to the Raiders, right? That conversation was in and around there too. And I still think at plus 350, that's not a bad play if you want to jump on that too. I just think that for how he's built and for what he can do in Jalen Milroe, boy, the Steelers and how they want to run that offense, how they will lean on their defense would need be. You're not asking him to win as many games. You're just asking him to facilitate a bit more and extend some drives with those legs as he gets really onboarded to what NFL defenses are trying to do against him.
Boy, if he did go to the Jets, though, could you imagine all the Justin Fields truthers out there? Oh, my God, you did it to him again. He never gets a chance. He's getting another chance at a starting gig, a lot more than most people get in this league. So we'll see if he can sink or swim here in New York. I don't think the Jets would be in play at 650, but crazier things have happened. What about Cam Scatterbo? Maybe the favorite name to say out there. And we were talking about during the break a little bit. He does feel like a throwback player that you'd like to see in somebody's backfield. Right now, the odds via DraftKings, where he's going to go, it does favor the Patriots here at 6-1. Got to tell you, I'm looking at the second part of that column.
Yes.
Cowboys at 14-1. That piques my interest, I'll tell you that.
Okay. I was looking right behind the Patriots. He feels like a Chiefs guy too. Just kind of where that backfield and what he does, and knowing it's going to be cold in December, January, to have a guy who feels, I think our producer Brandon Valesky said it best. He feels like an AFC North,
he does,
runner there. I would even look at the Broncos. Remember, we looked at Denver as an Omari and Hampton destination that did not come to pass yesterday. But I think those are two teams that you could kind of that first column at 7-1 and 9-1 respectively. Those are the two that stand out to me.
Does kind of feel like a touchdown Tommy Vardell. Guys, remember him?
Oh
Stanford?
my, yes.
Like I wonder if he's going to be that kind of big plotting fullback / tailback. He's got more speed than Tommy. Tommy was a pretty darn good player back there in his Stanford days. Yeah, you're right. The Broncos at 9-1 would make sense because they definitely need an upgrade. I don't know that the Niners, maybe it's a thunder and lightning type thing that you could do there with McCaffrey. And McCaffrey has broken down, that's for sure. But the Cowboys do need help at the running back position, Jensen. So I look at that at 14-1. I go, man, if you're not giving up that much capital, like he's a day 2 pick, but do you think is a second or a third rounder today?
I think it's probably indicative of where a couple of teams in round 2 either want to move up and what that value is, because thinking of some of these round 3 picks, and particularly if either the Chiefs or the Broncos feel like they need to move up, a lot predicated here, I think, on the first 10 picks of round 2, just knowing you've got multiple teams picking multiple times and where then maybe the rest of the board falls.
I'll be curious too when the run on day 2 running back starts, and I think it's going to start with Travion Henderson, like how then the dominoes fall there for Scatterbo. Like where does he go after you finally get Travion off the board? Because those needs that we're talking about with some of those teams, they're real at the running back position. And if you can't get Travion here early, then what do you do? Also, Luther Burden still on the board at wide receiver. Are you surprised by that a little bit?
No, not really. I know there were some character questions there, but again, when you got a guy that is, right behind, at least in some mocks, right behind Golden and Ibuka, in a way, Mecca Ibuka jumping way up there. Day 2 is huge. I told you about Trey Harris. I think both Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, a couple of impact receivers too. So you're right. Running back and receiver could be featured later today.
If you haven't checked it out yet, you got to check out the VSiN Killer Sports NBA Playoff Challenge. We got 15 sharp minds from the world of VSiN and Killer Sports going head-to-head. 38 picks each from the start of the playoffs all the way through the finals. That's 570 picks total, all available for VSiN Pro subscribers. So again, become a VSiN Pro subscriber. It's just $59. Covers you all the way through August 1st. So check it out at VSiN.com/subscribe.
Tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis here on a Friday. I know we cannot wait for rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft as well. Got some games in the NBA playoffs tonight as well, but also 3 really intriguing games here on the night on ice. To help us break it all down, Jonathan Davis, always love catching up with JD. Give him a follow on X at West Coast Hockey. That's HKY at the end there. Joins us now here in the Progressive Guest Line. And JD, when you look at it here on paper, some of these series feel like at 2-0 that maybe they've already hit the point of no return. Is that the case north of the border tonight with the Caps going up there? But those first 2 wins in D.C. were razor thin. Is this series over, or nothing really starts until you win on enemy ice?
Yeah, I would agree with both those sentiments. I don't think it's over. And yes, you're never out of a series, they say, until you lose one at home. So look, the building in Montreal is going to be electric. The Bell Center crowd in the playoffs Montreal. The playoffs has always been a special place. First home playoff game in 4 years for Montreal. I do like them to come out fast in this one, guys. Like Montreal, I took them on the money line for the first period, and that's the way I'm attacking that game from a side. I'm not going to play the full game over right now. And then one prop play I love in this game, and that's Juraj Slafkovsky, former first-round draft pick of the Montreal Canadiens, over 1.5 shots. It's pretty pricey. It's anywhere between minus 155, minus 180. So shop around. But he's gone over that total in 12 of the last 13 games. And I've even gone to ladder this one here, guys. He's got 9 shots on goal. Doesn't have a goal in the series, but he's had 9 shots on goal in the 2 games. And so I've laddered him at over 2.5 at plus 180 and over 3.5 at plus 450.
I love it. JD, this is why we have you too, because earlier in the show, as I was telling you in the break, I thought I would go back to the Caps and dig back in and think that Lightning could strike twice and I'd get the puck line with under a second to go. But you've talked me off that. And I think the goaltending too, just to kind of put a bow on where we are between Washington and Montreal, not only the building being electric, but gosh, the netminder has been amazing here for the Canadiens.
Yeah, Samuel Montembeault has been the only reason, one of the big reasons why these games have stayed pretty much to be, have been 1-goal games essentially. But at the other end, Logan Thompson saved the Capitals, literally, no pun intended, from that game going to overtime for a second time. So, I'm surprised, Washington, I came on before the playoffs started, and I said to you, my big concern with Washington was their propensity to give up 3 goals or more. They have flipped the switch come playoff time. They've only given up 2 to Montreal, at 2 and 1. So they've done a really good job. But yeah, look, I do like Montreal tonight to get themselves back into the series.
I want to go to the one game out west tonight. It's going to be north of the border in Edmonton with the Kings holding a commanding 2-0 lead. Really beat them up pretty good in game 2 as well after the wild one in game 1. And I mentioned this to you, JD. I was perusing last night, and I saw some really juicy numbers on Edmonton to still win this series. And I know you came on here and told us about the Kings, and boy, what a great call that is at this point. Would you look? You can get 5. I saw 6-1 on a series price for Edmonton at this point. Are they dead in the water, or could you look at it and say, man, maybe this might be a time to short-term buy back on Edmonton now that everybody else is kind of writing them off for dead?
You are never dead in the water when you've got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on your side. And we saw that in game number 1 where they almost pulled off the miracle. And look, they battled back in game 2, got themselves to within a goal. Their coach, Chris Knobloch, and Jensen, I always want to think of Chuck Knobloch every time I hear Chris Knobloch. I got to do a double take here. But Chris Knobloch said after game 2, his take has been, and I agree with it, LA's played well. But Edmonton has made life very easy for Los Angeles. The turnovers that they have made in this series have been egregious, and so I think that has led to a lot of what LA has done offensively. So yeah, they could get back at it. But there's been a flip of the switch here from last year to this year. Last year, LA was 0 for 12 on the power play. This year, they're 5 for 10. And Edmonton, with the loss of their best defenseman, Matthias Ekholm, is going to have to try to find a way, to shore things up defensively because, they've put the puck on the Kings' stick too many times, and that's not helping their cause.
JD, I know Stormy was talking about it on Money Moves, but it bears repeating. What is wrong with Vasilevsky with Tampa?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been burned twice now for the Lightning and the Panthers, again, making it stand up. You mentioned the injury issues they'd have to overcome. It feels like there has been no resistance for them. Bigger surprise that Vasilevsky has been maybe as downtrodden or disappointing, or more impressed by what Florida has done in that series?
Well, the first game, okay. Look, bottom line, game 2, I didn't like the 1 goal that he gave up, but I was more shocked by there was no pushback from Tampa last night. At least, now John Cooper, their head coach, who I think is the best coach in sports, he said, hey, look, there wasn't a lot of ice out there. We had a lot of good scoring chances. I just didn't see the same level of intensity that I'm accustomed to seeing Tampa play with in the playoffs. I mean, it looked more like a Tuesday in November game than game 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, yesterday, I can't put it on Vasilevsky. If your team don't score, you're not winning. Like we don't have shootouts in the NHL, so you can't go 0-0 even to to go to overtime and then you have a shootout. So it's a little concerning to me just how poorly they've been offensively. I just want to go back to LA. I just want to throw out my best bet for tonight is over 5.5 in that LA Edmonton game. 16 of the last 20 playoff meetings between these two games have had 6 goals or more. So shop around on that total. I see on the board here, we're showing 6. There are 5.5s out there. So if you can get that 5.5, I would go grab it. Also, Adrian Kempe of the LA Kings. He's got 12 goals in the last 13 playoff games against Edmonton. You can get him at about plus 180. And over his shots on goal prop, he had 8 in game number 2.
Wow.
He's had, now I again, like the Slavkovsky play I mentioned earlier, grab him at over 2.5. It's I think about minus 155. But he's had at least 3 shots on goal against the Oilers in the playoffs in 12 of his last 13. 9 of his last 13, he's had over 3.5. 6 of his last 13, guys, he's had both over 4.5 and 5.5. So I'm laddering Kempe tonight for his shots on goal.
See if you can still find those 5.5s. But as you mentioned, JD, right now it's at 6 and it's juiced to the over. So they're picking up what you're putting down big time here. We're going to get some offense tonight north of the border. Again, those big series prices here, you can find Edmonton close to 4-1 to make a comeback against the Kings. You guys mentioned the Lightning down 0-2 at home. They're plus 425 to win the series. And how about this, Jonathan? Now VGK is plus money to win the series, a plus $1.05 against Minnesota. Do I hop in there, or is it that water a little bit too cold to get in for Aiden Hill and company?
No, it's not too cold. I mean, it's a little concerning to see the way that Jack Eichel and Mark Stone have really been, non-existent in the last 2 games. And look, right now, the key for Vegas, one, again, they're turning pucks over. They're going to have to kidnap Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy and just don't let them out of wherever. Just block them up somewhere, because the two Minnesota Wild superstars have 7 of their 12 goals in the playoffs. They've been absolutely dynamic. But no, I can't write VJK off. But look, the Minnesota Wild guys, 20-8 to start the year now, and they're healthy again. Here's the one concerning stat, though, guys, with Vegas. I got this from my good buddy Ken Bolke, who has a great site called Sinbin Vegas, and pointed out to me the Golden Knights this year against teams' number 1 goalies, 24 and 22.
Ooh.
That's not a great number for a team that won its division. That's 24. Wow. Only 24 of their 50 wins came against the number 1 goalie.
My goodness.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, boys, and I see it, plus $1.05 here for VGK. Now it's minus $1.25 on Minnesota. JD, very quickly, get you out on this. If there's a series that still could flip, that for a team that's down 0-2, do you see a series where it might actually flip, or are we just grasping at straws at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think New Jersey has a chance to come back. Montreal, sure. Let's go back to Edmonton. Can it? Yeah, because of who they've got on the other side. The price is worth it when you've got McDavid and Draisaitl. So yes, it can. But their biggest problem is they're hurting so bad defensively. They're going to go with their backup tonight, Calvin Pickard, who's played well during the regular season. But they've got to keep LA guys under 3 goals. LA right now 41-0-2 regular season and playoffs when scoring 3. So you better keep LA to 2 tonight if you want to win.
What do you got, a little watch party tonight out there in California? Where are you going to be?
I'm going to a bar down here in Hermosa Beach called North End. It's where the Kings have brought the cup the last 2 times they've won it. And it's going to be a fun night out here in the South Bay.
Jensen, I think we got a road trip in our future.
I think we need
that sounds
remote by the books. Let's do it.
Sounds like a lot of fun. JD, appreciate your time as always, my friend. We'll catch up again soon.
Take care, guys.
Back with our best bets next here at VSiN By The Books.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books right here on VSiN.
Excellent puck conversation with Jonathan Davis in the last segment. Lou Finocchiaro earlier in the hour talking UFC Kansas City. We have a lot to get to here, Jensen, to wrap up the show. Obviously, day 2 of the NFL draft tonight. What are you looking forward to most? Is it just Shedeur? Because obviously that's going to be the talking point until he finally gets drafted.
Yeah, I am hoping my Browns do the right thing and don't draft him. And it might be a hot take, and that's fine, and I'll live with that. I do think that we've got some intrigue here in these first 10 picks. You mentioned Travion Henderson.
Yep.
I do think one of the subplots is, when does the run for running backs and or wide receivers start?
Absolutely.
And how many teams, and the panic's not the right word, but how many teams are nimble and react quickly to want to try and capitalize when that happens?
Yeah, Luther Burden, we would think is going to go pretty early here for the wide receiver core. I'm with you on Travion. What does that domino effect look like for Scatterbo and guys like that out there in the marketplace? So again, day 2 of the NFL draft, there's still betting opportunities there. We've got others that we want to get to as well, and our best bets are brought to us by GBank, the official bank of VSiN. And I know you got some baseball plays already in pocket, and maybe Metropolitans keep those bats going against the Nats today?
Absolutely, and kind of looking at where some of these starting pitching matchups are. The Mets in D.C. tonight. Kodai Senga, 19 consecutive scoreless innings on the road now against Jake Irvin. Both these guys have actually pitched pretty well. So I do think we see a little bit of regression in the Mets lineup. We'll be able to go. Washington's lineup's been scoring as well. So I think we see some scoring there as well. Angels and Twins over. I know these are offenses that are kind of going in different directions here. But I do think the matchup, particularly on the mound, Kyle Hendricks, the soft tosser there. If you've ever watched a game there at Target Field and you get some of the righties that can yank a little bit against Kyle Hendricks, I think they'll be in good shape. Mike Trout, a guy to focus on against Pablo Lopez, and coming off the injury, getting activated off the IL. I do have the over 7.5 in pocket there. Dave, let me ask you, because it is a guy, and I think Jonathan Von Tobel and maybe it jumped on Mike Trout MVP props here. Excited to see, kind of what he's done, even though the average hasn't been there. But do you feel that there's some staying power now for Trouty and the boys in the Halos?
I hope so. I think it'd be a great story for Major League Baseball if we got even the semblance of an old Mike Trout. And this is the problem, obviously, when you're coming off injuries. Like, can you still be the same guy that we all still want you to be? I think it's really hard to forecast that. But, man, this has been a struggle. I mean, if we're being objective about it for Trouty, like, we've never seen him. If this is fully healthy Mike Trout, we've never seen this version of a healthy Mike Trout struggling to this degree. Like I always say, Jensen, if you're not injured, that's the bigger question mark for me. Like, I hope something is wrong, and that's why we're seeing the numbers that we're seeing, because I want to think that with a healthy Mike Trout, we get back to being a guy that maybe we could still book for 20-plus home runs this year. And I know some people at the beginning of the year were thinking maybe even the value of it, you could throw him in that MVP conversation. I think those days are now put to bed for that. But yes, nostalgic-wise, I really hope that Mike Trout can turn the page just to show us all, for a younger generation, Jensen, that never got to see what we saw in that prime Mike Trout, first ballot Hall of Famer Mike Trout. You could have made the case early on the way he was projecting to be one of those top 5 players we've ever seen in the game. And from that perspective, it's really tough to watch this version of Mike Trout.
Yeah, if you look at about a 5-6 year stretch, it just wins above replacement. It is unbelievable, the company that he's in. By the way, our Redlegs in Denver to take on the Colorado Rockies.
Come on.
This will play a little bit more on Kyle Freeland for me. I did take the Rockies plus 1.5. That is juiced now all the way up to $1.60 at Circa. I got it at $1.35. On DraftKings, but I do think Andrew Abbott, again, relying a bit more on the breaking ball there from the lefties. I think that's going to be something to watch here as we move through the later stages of this game. But Kyle Freeland's actually pitched pretty well. Seeing a total under 10 at Coors Field.
How about that?
Always raises the radar a little bit for me there. So I got the Rockies in pocket plus 1.5.
Let me give you a couple of the UFC picks before we get to some of your puck and NBA picks as well. And I love having Lou Finocchiaro on because I like to go up with sharp minds. Lou's going to be on the Ian Machado Gary price. I'm on the opposite side here. I'm playing the Carlos Prates KO prop. I don't know that Prates can win a decision because we just have never seen him get out of, say, the first 3 rounds here. Normally gets it done by 2 rounds. Doesn't even get it to a 3rd round. So I'm going Prates by KO here. And if the fight does get longer, maybe you could look to Ian Gary's side here. If you're on the Gary side, I'd look to him via decision and turn that into solid plus money if you want to go that way. That's the method of victories I see there. Lou and I do a line on the Anthony Smith fight against Ming Yang Zhang, and it really is Anthony Smith going to get dog walked in 5 minutes by this kid? We don't think so. So it's a respect play for me. I'm going to play the over a round and a half. I just think Anthony Smith might take the kid into deeper waters here that he hasn't been in before. David Onama, I love Giga Chikadze, but to me, this is a pressure fighter. Onama at that value at 4-1, if he can get inside those leg kicks, Giga has not looked the same in the last couple of years. It might be a KO situation there. 4-1 was too good to pass up. Chaos. It's what we're going to get in Michelle Pereira, Abus Magomedov. I'm looking for under 7.5 minutes here. And Jensen, I don't even know who's going to win that fight. I just think it's going to be chaotic inside of 7.5 minutes. I'm sorry, Matt Danger Schnell. Love you. Jimmy Flick's a really good submission guy here. If Schnell doesn't get early, his cardio gets tested too. I like the under there. And Chris Gutierrez, Goots, I do like him via decision. This is a fight that was supposed to happen a while ago. It's been rebooked here. I think he uses that ring generalship here. 3-round decision price there. You can get that at $1.05. You want to play him the money line, you can at $1.45. We had Jonathan Davis on, and I think his information led you to maybe flip a pick here. What are you seeing north of the border?
Yeah, originally I was going to try and go back to the Capitals and the puck line, but he did talk me off of it. And I have to agree. The goaltending has been phenomenal. It's the biggest reason why the Canadiens are still within striking distance of this series. Do think the home ice will be beneficial. Got them even money on the money line. You see that's up to $1.04 at Circa. Also, when you're talking about out west tonight in north of the border too, Edmonton, I do think they find their way back into this series, and I'll take the gamble on the puck line. So minus $1.05. I'm sorry, minus 1.5 at plus $1.80. Yeah. For Edmonton, and I know it's even better when it's a correlated play. And you got JD on the over there. So obviously wanted to get that home. But I think you had kind of workshopped it, and we did as well. If you were going to take a future on a team that's down in their series, that's the team to hitch your wagon to. And even then, I kind of root for you too, because my Kings 22-1 in pocket. If you get a little plus money here, you kind of are on house money at that point.
Yeah, if you've got a ticket like that, or say you listen to Jonathan Davis, and we talked about it here in the network, that was his favorite play in the first round. If you've got that Kings ticket in pocket already, you might want to look at. I saw as high as 6-1 last night. It's been brought down a little bit overnight here. If you can find one of those juicy price points here, or maybe look for an adjusted series price, because I do think this is still going to get deeper into the series. I think we're going to go at least 6, if not 7, and that could be very interesting if you have those tickets in pocket here, down 0-2. I'm with you. I don't see them going out early in this one. Association tonight. You like the Bucks to get on the good foot here against the Pacers. I'm with you in this one. I think laying the 5 is not a bad price point here.
No, I think it's you look for a desperate team and a desperate time. You got to go back, and God, Giannis has been absolutely phenomenal thus far in this series. Now just need the supporting cast. If it's Damian Lillard, if it's maybe another cast of characters or two, then I think they've got enough. They got to limit Siakam one way or another. If they do that, they got an opportunity to cover this number. So I got minus 5 in pocket at DraftKings. See it at 5.5 now at Circa. One more out west, or I guess up north, I should say, for the West. I will probably lay the Timberwolves minus 3. Against the Lakers. I think they will be able to extend a little bit and lock down Luka and LeBron. Might get a little hairy there in the fourth quarter, but I do think the T-Wolves the better side. They've been awesome at home, 9-2 to finish the year in the regular season.
Yeah, I think Circa hurt us, Jensen, because that was 5 earlier. Now it's up to 5.5 here out here in the West Coast. G-Bank's up in the ante here, up to $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. If you're a new customer, you spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within those 90 days of opening up that account, you're going to receive another $250 bonus. In addition, if you spend $50K on gaming and sports app loads within the first 30 days of opening up that account, you're going to get another $500 bonus. That's $750 right then and there. Apply now, VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval, terms and conditions do apply. Jensen, you're on the road this weekend. Where are you going off to?
Headed down to Gainesville for Arkansas and Florida. Pivotal series here for college baseball fans out there. Arkansas locked to be a national seed. Florida needing a series win to kind of stay alive for their tournament hopes, but can't wait. It's 90 degrees.
Woohoo!
I'm wearing shorts on the plane. Let's go.
Safe travels, my brother. We'll do it again on Monday. We'll recap everything in the NFL draft and, of course, the wild weekend that will be in sports. Don't go anywhere. A numbers game, Gil Alexander, is up next.